Hello. Today's project is going to be recreating the Cricut Mat. These mats can be very expensive when you're just getting started with your Cricut business. The Cricut Mat measures 13 inches by 14 inches and gives you a workable space of about 11 and a half by 11 and a half. Even though they call it a 12 by 12, you don't get the full 12 by 12 when you load your workpiece. What I found that may work is these cutting mats from Bed Bath & Beyond. It's a 4-pack. You're going to require 2 of them. They're just under $5 each, making your total mat cost of about $2 a mat. These mats are a little short. They're 11 and a half inches. We're going to be adding a little section from the other mat to get the same width as the Cricut mat. What I chose to use here is the blue. Start off by taking your blue pieces and overlapping them. Then get a tape measure, and what we're going to do is measure out 13 inches. Adjust the mats closer together or further apart until we get them at 13 inches. Once it looks right, get yourself a piece of tape and tape the top edge, making sure that you grab both the mats. What I found works well is once you position the mat, put your piece of clear tape on top, lift the mat gently while holding down one corner of it, and fold the tape underneath. Double check your measurement, make sure you're still at 13. In my case, my tape measure has a little bit of play at the end. I like to move over 1 inch. So even though it's showing 14 inches on the tape measure, it's actually 13. Just repeat the process with the bottom, add your piece of tape, and then fold it up underneath. Double check one more time with your tape measure. Make sure you're still at 13 inches on the top and then 13 inches on the bottom. What we're going to do next is grab yourself a Sharpie. We're going to measure about 11 inches. Remember, my tape measure is over an inch, so it looks like I'm marking 12, but this is actually 11. And this is so that we are missing that little curved piece at the end. Follow the same process with the top. So again, measure your 11 inches. Put just a tiny little dot on there. Next, pick up a straight edge. I'm just going to use this piece of wood here. One side of it is really straight. Put your straight edge down on some type of wood surface because we're going to be cutting through using a box cutter. Make sure you have a fresh blade in here too. Double check your marks. Make sure you're aligned. Put some pressure down, making sure it doesn't move, and then lightly score that top piece of plastic and repeat the scoring until you get all the way through both pieces. I find it's better to do it this way than cut them individually because you'll match the cut of the top mat with the bottom mat, giving you a edge that lines up together better. If you got any little bits that haven't come completely through, just keep scoring until it comes apart. just like that. Now remove the tape that we used to hold the two pieces of mat together. Check to make sure that everything looks good. Match them up. Get your tape measure. And double check your measurements. If everything looks good, the next thing is going to be get a little piece of tape. And secure the top, bottom, and put a piece in the middle as well. Once you finish putting that one piece in the middle, we're going to flip the mat over. Make sure there's no debris on it. And then get your clear tape again. Pull off a long enough section to cover that entire seam. And stick that tape down all the way along the back. I'm going to leave my tape permanently on the back, and what you could try to do is use some type of a flexible glue in the joint to fill up that seam if you choose to do so. I haven't tried this, but they do make some flexible glues out there, but it works fine just with the piece of tape. Just press it down, make sure you don't have any big bubbles or anything. Flip your mat back over. Take off those long pieces of tape. Now I find that it works best to add another small piece of tape at the very edges, at the very ends, just to cover that seam and give it a little extra support. Otherwise, without those little pieces of tape, that corner might fold down on you. But I find that just a little tape on the edges there works really well. Alright, that looks good. Next thing we're going to do is grab our tape measure. Double check, make sure we're at 13 by 15. And this is how it compares to the standard Cricut mat. You can see the width is exactly the same. Our mat is just a little bit longer. Now we're going to go over to the computer, launch Cricut Design Space. I've already created this file. I'll link the file in the description. That way if you guys want to use it, you can. It did take some time to create. If you want to add the centimeters into it, feel free to do so. Go ahead and load the project. And the great thing is it perfectly lines up with the mat. Exactly. Cricut never gives you the full 12 by 12 inches. So it's about a 1/4 inch space all the way around. And this project lines up perfectly. Anything that's within this box can be cut, printed, or drawn on. Let's go ahead and create it. You want to pick the thinnest material. What I found that worked for me was the laser copy paper. Just do a quick material search for laser. There it is right there. You can use the standard Cricut pen. I wasn't sure if it was a permanent ink or not. I would imagine it is. I'm going to be using an adapter and a Sharpie with an extra fine tip. Now we'll head over to the machine. Go ahead and load your pen in. Lock it in place and bring over your mat. Let's get our mat ready. Go ahead and load your mat in. Once your mat's loaded, there it is. Then hit your Cricut button and just watch the machine do its work. I got it sped up. It's not normally this fast. Guys, if you like the videos, give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notification bells. And leave me comments. I love reading the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as I see that you left one. And if you need to create the longer mat, I would imagine the same process would work. You would just add another couple of the DIY chopping mats to it to create a 12 by 24 mat. So there it is, completed. Looks good. Let's see how it matches up to the Cricut mat. Awesome. The next thing we need to do is get our mat ready for the basting spray. What you're going to want to do here is get your tape measure. And what we want to do is measure in 1/2 inch from each edge and mark it with a Sharpie. Just give it a little dot. You can do it on the top part of this little grid. So measure yourself 1/2 inch in from the edge. Put a little dot. Do the same thing at the bottom. And the reason we're doing this is these are going to be our guides for our masking tape. You don't want to put any of this basting spray in the path of the little rollers that grip the mat along the edges. Otherwise, they'll get gummed up and create problems for you later on down the road. What we're doing is copying exactly where Cricut applies their glue. And if you measure their mat, it's 1/2 inch in from each edge. Get yourself some blue painter's tape. Cut off a piece the length of the mat. And then use those little guide marks that you created to line up the tape. And you're just going to press the tape down on the mat only, not on the surface that you're working on. Now that you got both sides completed, we're going to get 2 more pieces of tape. Now what I recommend you do here is when you're going to put them underneath your grid, make sure that you don't put the tape covering any of your pen lines, because when you pull the tape up like I did here after I was done basting, it pulled some of the grid marks off with it. So make sure you give yourself just a little bit of space. Now, this basting spray is pretty nasty. Make sure that you spray it outside. I started spraying it inside my house, and you can tell that the stuff is not good for you. So this is the basting spray that I used. I picked it up at Walmart. It's designed for quilts. It will hold material together. That way you can sew it. But it works really good on these mats. And what I recommend is applying several coats. I'll put one thin coat down, wait for it to dry, and then put a second and third coat down, making sure to wait in between coats for them to dry. If you need to get the mat really sticky again, after it's totally dry, you can use a little bit of steam to reactivate the adhesive. But it is very sticky, and I think it'll do a great job. We'll try it out here in the next video. Once it's completely dry, the next thing you want to do is remove the tape from the edges. I was kind of bummed out that I took some of that Sharpie mark off at that top edge there, as you can see. Good. And there you go. So you can see exactly where the adhesive is. It covers all those little grid marks. Looks good. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching.